It's segment 2. You're going to see our mugs all week. It's segment 2 of the DC Defender Show. Another episode. We're still talking about week 1. We're still hurt. So segment 2, in theory, segment 1's always going to be review. Segment 2 is kind of be our flex. Like, we might go this way, might fit an interview in. And segment 3 is going to be previewing. So, or episode 3, whatever you guys want to call it. But I'm joined again with Alex down below. It's easier to do it this way when you're below instead of on the sides. But are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so let's dig in a little bit deeper. Week 1 was a debacle, the Alamo debacle, we're going to call it. We'll see them again. So this is Insider View, on guard. Let's go through it. We're going to go through the player of the week, the stat of the week, web stat of the week, and your play of the week.
Let's do it.
Player of the week for me was Malik Fisher. I think this was an easy one. I know you're going to have a guy that you probably can make a case for too, but Malik Fisher was pressure early on when the defense was getting dog walked down the field by the Brahmas offense. Malik Fisher was present with the pass deflection, the tackle for loss. He was always there. You saw the number 92. Even though you have Harris and Bellamy out there, Malik Fisher was the guy. And I got to give a nod to him because he was the only one that seemed like was ready to go. Like we talked about in the previous segment, like had a little fight to him. And I'm not calling out the rest of the team, but it seemed like, oh, Malik Fisher's ready to play, or he's got an advantage on his matchup, and he's taking advantage of that at the very least. So, your comments on Malik Fisher?
Malik was fantastic. You know, he was one of those guys really early, especially early in the game, that second drive, you know, and he was getting good push, you know, had a nice pass deflection, had a bunch of tackles. You can't argue with this. I mean, that's a solid pick for player of the game. And I hope he can continue doing that because, you know, if you go back and look at it too, the defense, even though it felt probably worse than it was, you know, it felt like they were in control the whole way because they got up 7 and then they went up 14-3. You know, you take a look at Tiamu gave them 1 when he threw the interception. They ran it back to the 5. So we set the defense up in bad shape there. We also set the defense up. You know, they had the fake field goal punt, whatever, where they got the score. But, you know, we never covered that guy. But, you know, you take those 2 plays out, which I know you can't. They all count. You know, really the defense gave up about 14 points. So they played well enough to win probably. But we didn't. Yeah,
and the thing about the defense is at the first half they were shaky, but they were the strength of the team. Mm-hmm. From basically the middle of the second quarter, I would say, until the end of the game, the defense was playing. Like I know all the Brahma fans are talking about how their offense was so dynamic. Yeah, it was great in the first quarter and a half, but after that, I know Garber's got a rushing touchdown, but you had the ball at the 6. Like I honestly, when that play was going on, the interception, I was like, just let him score, because in this league, the time works against you faster than anything else. So,
yeah, good point.
Player of the game for you, Matthew McCrane. I know you love your kickers.
Love kickers.
Go for it.
Love kickers. You know, this guy was a weapon yesterday. He hit some big kicks for us. Had a 50-yarder. And I mean, all of his kicks were true. And he was a very accurate kicker at Kansas State, 4 for 4. You know, I think, you know, we don't turn it over there late. We have a chance to make it 20-15. And I mean, it's a weapon to have a kicker that you can come in and you can really count on to hit these kicks. So, you know, if I had to pick a defensive guy, it'd have been Malik. But overall, I'll stick with my kickers. And Matt McCrane, my player of the game.
Any other player, I can't disagree because he was all of the scoring. Any other players on, let's say, the offensive side or the defensive side that you would consider, even though we chose these other 2?
No.
Wow. All right. Ty Scott was the highest PFF graded player on the team, and I know you thought he got an easy catch really there for that 43-yard, but. Ty Scott, when he had the ball thrown to him, he was effective.
Yeah. I would have probably said Ty Scott. He had a really good game. And, you know, that one catch that I had mentioned, you know, I know Tiamu got hit, but I mean, Ty could have fair caught that. You know, there was no safety, no corner. He's out there 20 yards away from everybody, and the ball hung up. And I was like, please come down. Come on. And it just hung up there forever. But again, Tiamu was under pressure. He got hit. I'm not coming down on him. But, yeah, Ty had a good game. 87. He's a leading receiver in the UFL.
Yeah, and to go back to leading statistics, Tiamo's the leading passer too in passing yards. So my web stat of the game really was he was 20 for 28 when he connected with Ty Scott for the 43-yard, the fair catch, I guess we're calling it, the fair catch reception that you're calling it. But after that, it was bad. When the offense gave up on the run and they were trying to get chunk yards instead of the underneath stuff and chunk yards, kind of mixing it up. The passing game was not there, and San Antonio was able to kind of sit back and just play zone and be able to. They were getting with 4, so they could sit back. And when you're trying to get 10, 12 yards because the clock is working against you in this league, they were able to sit there all day, and it killed the passing game, and it made Tiamo's game look worse than what I believe it really was.
There's no run threat, so you had the RPOs were nil. We talked about that coming into the game. You got to establish the run, put those read defenders in conflict where they have to come up and play the run. They didn't have to. We were across the front and 4. They knew we couldn't. They were playing us straight up with their front 4. They knew we couldn't run the football, nor we weren't even trying to run the football.
Yeah.
So, it did put a lot on Tiamu. And then when you're in, pass every now and then, what do those front 4 guys do? They start really coming at you. And if you've got some deficiencies on the offensive line and having a hard time protecting, then you're putting your quarterback out there at risk. So, I think the only thing I'd say with Jordan, and I know we touched on this a little bit, he was 6 for 6 to start the game for 20 yards. So there was a lot of these more like not getting the ball down the field, but more of these, I know he threw one out to Puka early in the game for like a 3-yard loss, and he'd, dump balls into the flat, and everything was like a dink and dunk, high percentage, but we averaged like 4.6 yards an attempt, which is the lowest in the league. So I hope that we can maybe, start to run the ball better when we get the RPO game going and throw the ball more vertically and less horizontally. Felt like a lot of our stuff was.
Well, you talk about the RPO game, and I think you said this on the last show. Run is the first word in RPO, and if you don't run the ball, the PO, it just pisses you off. You know what I'm saying?
That was good.
And so, Alex, in case anyone doesn't know this by now, Alex is a football coach. He coached in the 90s, early 90s?
Yeah, early 90s. Yep, small college. Yep.
Small college coach. Yeah. So he's going to break down the play of the game, and we both know this had to be the play of the game. And I'm going to ask you a few questions after we see it.
Here on 4th down and 11, and the punter, Brad Wing, takes the snap. He wants to throw. Brad Wing lofts it downfield, and it's caught to the goal line. Touchdown!
All right, so yeah, shake your head. So my first question is, as a football coach, you coach more on the offensive side, correct?
Yeah, I coach some defense though too, but mostly on the offensive side. Yeah.
And were you special teams? Well, you're a small town, so everything.
Small college, everybody has special teams. Yeah.
So when they audible or they reset to the fake formation, really, they go from the field goal. What is the mentality of your special teams? Like what do you coach them?
Yeah, right there from where they're kicking. The defense is on the field, and we're going to line up, and we're going to have a coverage. I'm going to have maybe, pulling the corners off, making sure we're counted up, and everybody's accounted for the fake, because I think from there you have to worry about the fake. I don't think I would have had the field goal block on there. I probably would have been playing it safe. One of the things I noticed, first of all, when 55 caught the ball, I was like, it's coming back. He's ineligible. And then when I went back and had a chance to see, he lined up on the end of the line of scrimmage. But if you watch, he cuts down the field. Watch Bernard. Watch the linebacker. We had no idea who to get. He starts this way, then he kind of goes this way, and then he loops back around. I mean, that guy was totally untouched. So it totally caught us off guard. I mean, they come out, you're thinking – field goal, and then they switch, and I'm thinking they're going to quick kick this. They got the punter back there. He's just going to, pooch punted it down there. That's a smart play. And then he was throwing it. I was like, oh, thank you. And then a guy waddles down the field 50 yards and catches a touchdown pass. Untouched, completely uncovered. So we had no clue what coverage we were in, who had who. That was a total bust. Merry Christmas.
So as a coach, do you practice that? Like, how do you simulate that? Because if you go to the interviews and Alex Millett says it during the game, and so does Brad Wing, there's only one route on that game, on that play. And he wasn't supposed to throw it to Millett. Millett was just supposed to be a dummy route.
Right.
How do you coach that if they're in the offense's thinking is, hey, we got this one route and this is the way we're going, and then it turns out to not be that way. How does the defense or the special teams prepare for that?
It's hard because they're going to catch you with something. And I think, there's no film. It's the opening game of the year. We weren't expecting it. In hindsight, probably could have taken a timeout. Like when they shifted, I don't know the coverage, right? And I'd have to look at the front again. Maybe we were in field goal block. Maybe we were coming after it. I can't imagine that we would have. I would have wanted to play it safe. But I mean, typically you're going to have a preset front and a preset coverage that you would come out in, like we call, hey, safe. We're going to line up in a normal D, and we'll go safe here, especially on punt. You'll see that a lot on punt too. Like when they shifted in that punt position from the field goal, like when they shifted out of that, even if you had the field goal block on, when they saw that and they went into punt, then, I'd punt safe, and then you're falling back into a regular defense. And then whatever coverage you have, you could play 2, you could play 3, you could play quarters, any of that. It just looked like we didn't know what was going on. In hindsight, you just probably want to time out there, maybe. I don't know if that answers
that brings me to yeah, you did. That brings me to the question of the week. All right, question of the week. Alex is not prepared for this. If you were Brad Wing, would you be able to connect with Alex Millett on that pass right now?
Oh, hell
present
yeah.
day?
There was nobody within 40 yards of him. I think I might have to ice it down the
No,
next
not. Oh, okay. You think you can huck that ball to Alex Millett?
I could make that throw.
Okay. All right. I was just wondering. I didn't know how. I know you're in shape. We met before. Like I know you're in shape. I just didn't know how often you toss the pigskin around. So
yeah, I think I could. I might not be able to lift my arm the next day, but I think I could get it there once.
that's all that matters, right? Yeah, I get it there.
I bet you could. You probably would have pumped it and then taken off and used your speed and run for the touchdown from about 50 yards out.
No, my honestly, I would have thrown a pick six because the one route, my mindset would have been like, I need to go here. This is where I'm going. And obviously it was covered. Credit to Brad Wing. He audibled in the middle of the play. So
yeah. Hey, the guy was wide open too. Give credit. Great run, great route by Millett. Nobody touched him.
Yeah. For all the fat guys out there.
For all the fat guys out there.
All right. That has been segment number 2. We'll see you on Thursday.